Whenever we talk about locations and places that are supposedly haunted, there's always one place that keeps getting talked about and is notorious for activity that continuously happens, and that is Woodchester Mansion. This place is up there in amongst the top 5 of the most UK's haunted locations, and the reputation that it has is unbelievable. And what you are about to listen to now does actually live up to that reputation it has. So before I go into the evidence side of things, I'm just going to give just a quick brief background on the place itself, because this is one of these places that you look at and you think, well, how is this here? How did this all start? And basically what is the history behind the mansion itself. Woodchester Mansion is a Grade 1 listed building set in the Cotswolds in Gloucestershire. Back in the 1800s, this plot of land was bought by a gentleman of the name of William Lee. He decided then to build a mansion for him and his family on this plot of land. William Lee died in 1873, and during the whole time of the rebuild and the construction, it never actually got finished before he died. The property itself just stayed within the family until about the mid-1900s and was then bought by Woodchester Trust, to which they still hold today. Although, as you can see from the outside, the mansion itself looks actually complete, but when you do actually go inside itself, it's a completely different scenario, and it just basically looks like a building site, as nothing has been complete. And as pretty and picturesque that it looks from the photos, inside has quite a dark history and background as to its hauntings and the activity that continuously happens. Why is it haunted? What is the story as to why it is? There's a few things that are going around as far as why it could be haunted, but the factual evidence side of it is that during the actual construction back then, 7 workmen were reported to have died on site, and there was even a report of a murder that took place as well. The other stories that are going around is that the reason why it is left the way it is and hasn't been finished is basically because the workmen actually all witnessed something paranormal and got quite scared, basically down-tooled, just left the building and never returned since. But then on the flip side, the reason that it has been left the way it has and not been completed on the inside is because William Lee and his family actually ran out of money during the whole rebuild and construction, and that's why it has been left the way it has. So as far as evidence, there's so many accounts of different types of evidence, as far as voices on EVPs, growls that can be heard real time, unexplainable noises and footsteps, apparitions, people being touched, anything paranormal that is related basically apparently happens at Woodchester Mansion. And also, quite interestingly, a spirit dog has been not only caught on quite a few photos, but can actually be heard, the barking as well, coming from inside the mansion as well. From all the places within the mansion itself, the actual place that seems to be the most active is actually downstairs in the cellar, and coincidentally all the evidence that I've managed to capture through the whole investigation happened and seemed to come from downstairs in the cellar itself. Now, from all the investigations that I've done, I would probably say that still to this day, during this investigation, was the only one time that I've ever felt, let's say, a bit uncomfortable. And you'll probably understand why from what you're about to hear in just a moment. Now, as you know, it's very rare that during an investigation things normally happen at real time, i.e. people witnessing things moving, people hearing spirit voices real time, and just other things going on that can be accounted for during the actual real-time investigation, as most of the evidence is then picked up when analysing the photos, the video footage, playback of the audio, etc. So to experience and be put in a position that I was and the rest of the team were at this particular time was quite startling and quite unnerving, and as I said, in a moment what you hear will perhaps understand why we all felt like that during the time. So as you can see from looking at the photo, you're looking at the cellar itself. This is where myself and the rest of the group were at this time. Some of the other group were located in different parts of the mansion itself, but for myself and the group I was with, we were downstairs in the cellar. Now, from what you're looking at, you can see kind of little alcoves then as to where the cellar leads off into these kind of separate little rooms within the cellar. Now, audio that you're about to listen to at the moment is when we were first all stood in the centre of the cellar doing a Ouija board. Now, this was right at the start when we were beginning the investigation down there, and what you're going to hear is Roger basically now introducing and starting to call out on the board, asking for contact. So this first EVP coming up now is just as Roger starts calling out, and he basically then asks if there's any spirits that would like to communicate with us. Now, just after he says this, you're going to hear a very, very good Class A EVP response to what Roger was saying. I'm not going to tell you now what I think it is. I'll give my interpretation in a second, but I'm going to play this for you now just for you to hear. I'm going to loop this a few times as well. Now, just to be aware that at the beginning of this you are going to hear me whisper just to introduce the EVP session by saying EVP down in the cellar Ouija board. So I'm whispering that just to log the session. But so just after this you're going to hear this EVP. I'll loop this a few times and then I'll give my interpretation as to what I think it's saying as well.
Is there a person or spirit in this room
Ouija board in the cellar
who would like to make contact with us? Can you come forward to the board? Contact with us? Can you contact with us? Can you contact with us? Can you contact with us? Can you?
So what do I think it's saying? It's pretty clear, isn't it, actually? Now, my interpretation is that I'm 100% sure that that spirit voice that was not heard real time is actually saying, "Help me, Roger." The words are very clear, very distinct, but what also is more of a convincer for me is that not only are they asking for help, but they're asking for help of one specific person. Now that person is Roger. Now Roger is the person that was calling out during the time. So this all makes sense as far as this spirit needing or asking or wanting help from a particular person, and that is Roger. For a spirit to be asking for help of one particular person and it to be Roger, the one that was actually calling out, is very, very fascinating and unbelievable to listen to, because this is such a direct Class A EVP with a response asking for help. So the next thing that happened was about 2 minutes after this EVP was caught, which obviously at the time we didn't know we caught this, as this was not heard real time. What you're about to hear now was heard real time, and when I mentioned earlier on about us being put in a position that we all felt quite uncomfortable, then this was the time. I'm not going to go into this now, as I want to get straight on and play this for you to listen to. All I can say is try and imagine yourself if you were there at that time, and this is what happened.
I move the glass towards my voice to let us know you're here and willing to talk to us. If you'd like to make contact and talk to anyone.
What was that?
What was that? It's upstairs. It's upstairs. It must be upstairs. Oh, out the corridor. Was it in here? It wasn't in here.
It sounded like it came from over there.
You're fucking joking. Here.
Did you hear that? You heard that?
I swear down it was...
I thought someone was messing about and
I don't know the way. I thought it was you lot. Everybody talk quietly, just in case we were in the house. Where did you think it came from?
Oh, yeah.
What, in the sun? Oh God, I've got to get out.
It sounded like somebody was...
No, I don't.
It's okay, it's okay.
It's okay. Here.
It sounds like I'm here.
No, it wasn't me.
Isn't it funny? I don't like it.
What's that? No, it wasn't me, mate. Not us down here.
That sounded like it was out here, up there.
It did sound like over this side, if not over there a little bit.
It's none of our groups.
So it could have been in there.
But we were standing in there.
I turned my...
I got me.
We got that on.
Yeah.
We got it on record.
I think
It's
so.
on record.
Yeah.
She got it on video. She may have caught that on video as well.
No one's in the front. Yeah, it sounded terrible, and we're downstairs, and we've done it.
So even me listening to that again is absolutely incredible to think that I witnessed what I did and heard what I did at that time, real time. Was it fake? Was it set up? I'm still not too sure. The reason why I don't think this was set up and faked it because whoever would have set that up, as far as it being somebody in the mansion, would have risked putting their whole reputation and everything being exposed as far as it being fake, knowing full well that if anybody did ever catch them doing this, then they would never get any business, so to speak, from any investigators again in the future. So it's such a massive high risk of faking that if they did. On the other side of it, I have heard other EVPs and reports of growls very, very similar to this from other investigators at the time. Not only heard real time, but actually caught on EVPs. So this was caught on the audio as an EVP as well, rather than it be heard real time. So for that alone convinces me enough to perhaps think this was real and this was genuine. But as you've just heard, this was just one of these rare things that I'll probably never experience again. So the next thing coming up now is another EVP. Again, this was not heard real time, only picked up on playback on the audio. Now looking at the photo, you can see the alcoves. If you look to the far right, you can see that alcove. Now that's where I was in on my own doing a call out session when I picked up this EVP. The rest of the group were in the middle of the room and still on the Ouija board. Now what you're about to hear is some type of female yawn or moan, something like that. So instantly the skeptics now are going to think, well, it obviously naturally and logically was one of the female investigators just yawning at the time, and obviously it's been picked up on the audio. I just want to quickly mention that the group I was with are all experienced investigators, and they know consciously and about being aware of not making any noises, for example like this, that could perhaps corrupt any potential evidence as far as it being picked on the audio. So as much as this will sound just like somebody yawning or moaning, I'm 99% sure that this is not, only because of the group that I was with, knowing the investigators that were there wouldn't have done something like this consciously, and also to the fact, just to quickly say that if this was one of the investigators, then I would have heard it, or one of the other group would have heard it, and they would have mentioned it there and then at the time, just so it didn't corrupt the evidence, and we know that it wasn't anything possibly paranormal, it was one of them. So I just want to quickly throw that out there, because what you're about to listen to, you're naturally going to think that, and I just want to say that that was not the case.
And if I ask some yes or no questions, if you come close to me, then the green light will change and I know that you're here.
Come on, you've got to communicate with us now. I'm really enough of it. Playing games, sitting in the corner, hiding, watching.
Are you...
I really want something. You need to tell us. Tell us on the board. Tell us on the board. Tell us on the board. Tell us on the board.
So to coincide with what you've just listened to, I just want to say that another group of investigators were all male, and they were upstairs during the time that we were downstairs in the cellar. There were no female investigators within the group at all, yet when they listened and reviewed everything as well, they also heard a female moan very, very similar to what I've picked up on this recording as well, which is again interesting to know that there were no female investigators at all in that group, so it could not possibly have been anybody at all that had made that noise, yet a female spirit voice caught on the recording. Now, whilst the group were in the centre of the cellar on the board, they had a lot of communication through the board, and at one time, even the board spelling out, "Help me." Now, if you look back at the beginning, when we caught that EVP of that spirit voice saying, "Help me, Roger," Could this have been the same spirit that came through on the board that was asking for help? Very strange, very coincidental, but interesting to see that being spelled out, and yet later when analysing everything, picking up on that spirit voice, asking for help as well. What you're about to hear now is again an EVP when the rest of the group were on the board at the time. I can't quite make out exactly what this voice is saying, however, it does sound very similar to the same voice that we heard a moment ago at the beginning. The board is spelling out different letters, and you're going to hear two of the female investigators on the board, and you're going to hear them say H, H, because that's what the board is spelling out. Now, just after this, you're then going to hear this EVP of somebody saying something, which to me sounds like something saying you see, or Sue Z, or soon see. It's something like that. I'm going to play this, I'll loop this a few times for you to listen to as well. So the last thing coming up now again was when we were all on the board, and what you're going to hear is some strange noise as far as it being a deep, bassy kind of grunt. That's the only way to explain it. Now the coincidental thing is, again, this was not here real time, only picked up on the audio, but just after you hear this grunt, you're going to hear the glass move on the board as it was spelling out, which was really odd actually. So again, I'm going to play this, I'll loop this a few times as well. So from all the other reports saying that down in the cellar is the most active place within the mansion, this instance certainly seemed to be the case. Out of the whole investigation, this was the only area really that I managed to pick anything up at all, which does kind of coincide with all the other stories. And as nerving as it was to listen and be a part of that growl that we all heard real time, I just hope the next time I return, I'll witness the same thing again. But thanks for watching the video and hope you've enjoyed.